Part 9. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 81. Quiet. Everyone felt an unprecedented quietness in the business world. Unlike the cheers of yesterday, this deadly silence concealed a terrifying undercurrent that devoured people. After a few days, everyone found that Jin Sanyi, Shizong, Qianzongnan and other local association leaders borrowed money from people everywhere, even tens of thousands of yuan, which was very abnormal. There is no airtight wall in the world. Even if there is, Zhou Zianfei will not allow the wind to pass through. In a very short week, the business community in Baiwan City has begun to be restless. The capital chain of many people has begun to tighten, especially those who have lent money to others. Now the cash flow of small factories is almost unbearable. In the end, Zhou Zianfei announced through the mouths of some people that the Big Cow project had aborted, and the money would be returned after the new year. Almost at the same time, the bank issued loan collection bills to these companies, and a set of death strands was properly arranged for these companies. When everyone received these two news, they almost cried. After crying, they all remembered one person, Mr. Wang. The door of the hotel room was crowded with people, all clamoring for Lu Feng to get out. Everyone vented their emotions on Lu Feng, and some people even kicked the door frantically, asking him to be buried with him. In the room, Bai Yuanfang listened to the noise outside, and the whole person was helpless. Looking at Lu Feng, he said, "These have nothing to do with you. They should go to Zhou Zianfei. You tell them that you are just Zhou Zianfei's gun." Lu Feng had long expected this day, and said lightly, "I am Zhou Zianfei's gun, used to check and balance the association. I am your gun, used to capture Zongnan Food Factory, and now I am Qianzongnan's gun, used to help him swallow other factories. I am still the gun of the third master of Jin." Lu Feng didn't say that at the end, "I am my own gun," paving a solid backing for GMA Food. Lu Feng opened the door, and the angry people outside rushed in a rush. Some people even wanted to do it. Bai Yuanfang screamed, and the scene was chaotic. Standing on the bedside table, Lu Feng looked at so many people and shouted loudly, "Shut your mouth if you don't want to go bankrupt." In an instant, there was silence, and everyone looked at him dully. Lu Feng looked at these people. He knew what Zhou Zianfei wanted. Even if he bought the raw material processing factory here, he would give him a great gift on his site so that he could deal with it later. "You people, some of you used to hang out with Third Master Jin, and some with Mr. Shi and Mr. Qian. In the Fellow Townsmen's Association, some local people, some out-of-town gangs, and now such a big thing happens. Have they managed you?" Lu Feng shouted sharply, "No, they only care about their own factories and even want to swallow you. Think about it, how did Zhou Weiman die? It's such a coincidence, how many things are going on here, how many dark." Everyone's faces were full of shock, and they were all stunned. Only one person reacted and shouted, "It's not your fault that we have come to this day. Yes, give us the money back. Don't want to leave without paying back the money. You are a liar, and you are not from the White Rabbit Group at all. Fraud." "Quiet. Quiet," Lu Feng kept smashing the wall with his slippers in his hand, shouting loudly, "I didn't lie to you, I really belong to the big White Rabbit Group. The big dairy project is so big, how could it be possible to lie to you? There are some problems, and we need to think about it in the long run. Can make you go bankrupt? It is impossible. Secretary Zhou is very good. He told me painstakingly that he asked the local bank to prepare relief funds and set up a local chamber of commerce. Go to him, everything is a small problem. Everyone is a little suspicious. They are not good at dealing with." In the past, things like this were handled by Jin Sanyi and General Shi, who had full authority to represent their interests. Real or fake? It's absolutely true. If it's fake, it's not too late for you to come back and beat me, right? Lu Feng threw his shoes off on the ground and assured everyone. The crowd then slowly dispersed and swarmed towards the municipal office. Zhou Xianfei waited for this day for an unknown amount of time, and he naturally solved the problem for everyone with a smile on his face. After everyone dispersed, the carpet in the room was already in a mess. Lu Feng stood barefoot on the ground and sat on the bedside table, sneering, "Zhou Xianfei should invite me to dinner, and it's a big meal. The money belongs to these people. He gave the money to these people in the form of loans. These people are grateful, they buy people's hearts, and they have to charge interest. How many such people have you found in the world?" Bai Yuanfang looked at him coldly, recalling the scene just now. She suddenly couldn't understand the college student in front of her, so many twists and turns. Sometimes she was confused, but the other party was clear. "You belong to him?" Bai Yuanfang asked. "Who?" "Zhou Xianfei. I suspect that when your work was assigned, it was assigned to Baiwan City," Bai Yuanfang said suspiciously. "How is this possible? Then how do you know so much?" "That's what he wants. What he wants is a loose business environment in Baiwan City and free competition in the market. You know, if you buy from a factory under Mr. Jin, you think it's expensive, unless you replace it with those under Mr. Shi. People's factories, otherwise the prices are the same, and even the prices at Mr. Shi's side are the same. They have monopolized the market, which is illegal. If you break the law, you will be caught." "Catch," Lu Feng smiled, looked at Bai Yuanfang, felt that she was naive, found slippers to put on his feet, and said, "After the arrest, will so many factories go bankrupt? How many jobs will be affected? This is the backbone of the local industry. The state encourages private enterprises, and state-owned enterprises are reforming, so you want to arrest private enterprises. What major did you study in university?" Bai Yuanfang wondered. "Marketing. I later took psychology and product design as electives, and I also studied UI design, front-end, back-end and so on for a while. At that time, people made a lot of money doing online store decoration." "Online store?" Bai Yuanfang stared at him with wide eyes, and found that he understood every word in his mouth, not even one piece, and wondered, "UI design? Front-end? Back-end? Lu Feng froze on the spot, and it took a few seconds before he could react and said, "It's an online store, selling fishing nets. Let's go downstairs and walk." In the afternoon, those who went to Zhou Xianfei basically got a loan, which was enough to ease their business, and they all joined the local chamber of commerce. At lunch, Zhou Xianfei expressed his gratitude to everyone. At this moment, Qian Zongnan already understood that he had been looking for Zhou Xianfei for a week, but he just didn't want to see him. At this point, life and death were decided. Even if they borrow money and let the factory linger for years, Zhou Xianfei will still find a way to withhold the money. Qian Zongnan and Shi Lang had already accepted their fate, and they were willing to be played by people like Zhou Xianfei, but 10,000 of them were unwilling to be played by Lu Feng. The next day, an invitation was delivered to the hotel. In the banquet hall on the 4th floor, Qian Zongnan set up a table and invited him to come at noon. This table has Qian Zongnan, Shi Lang, Jin Sanyi, and Lu Feng. Needlepoint to Mei Mang, want to discuss an explanation. Bai Yuanfang flipped through the invitation and said, "Don't go. If something goes wrong, how did Zhou Weiman die? I'm still investigating. I'll divorce him in a few days, and I won't need to see you again." Lu Feng didn't know what to say to her, so he stood up and said, "I'd better go. Some things have to be settled after all. I also hope you have a good home." "What did you say?" Bai Yuanfang asked in disbelief. "It's nothing, it's time to go down, people have a treat, we can't help but go, everyone has been fighting for so long, some things should be brought to the fore." Lu Feng breathed a sigh of relief, with mixed feelings in his heart. This journey it's finally over. In the banquet hall on the 4th floor, Zongnan had already arrived, sitting there in a high-spirited manner, when Bai Yuanfang and Lu Feng walked in. Only then did he know what it meant to lose his wife and lose his army. As soon as Lu Feng entered the door, everyone's eyes were fixed on him. The atmosphere in the banquet hall was cold, and the scene was full of hostility. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 82. Everyone came so early? Originally, I thought, come early and greet you in person. Lu Feng looked around and said with a smile, it makes me a little embarrassed now. You don't need to be embarrassed. Our factory will be shut down soon, and if you are idle, you will be idle. Mr. Shi's face was sinking. Mr. Wang, have a meal and explore. What kind of immortal are you? I have a few doubts now. Did Zhou Xianfei arrange for you to come in, or did you have an affair with Mr. Qian's wife? Jin Sanyi asked. Everyone at the scene was staring at Lu Feng, with Lu Feng on his back, but all the business leaders in Baiwen City were present. The momentum was definitely there. Coupled with their invisible pressure, ordinary people could no longer bear the cold sweat. However, Lu Feng smiled calmly, sat in the seat and looked at everyone, lit a cigarette without being humble or arrogant, and said, this matter, I can only say, it's a coincidence, it has developed to this day, and I am also have not thought. With your educational background, there is no problem in assigning a good job. What benefit does Zhou Xianfei give you? Qian Zongnan said, don't fight, you haven't heard the word, cunning rabbits die, running dogs cook, we cunning people. The rabbit is about to be stewed in an iron pot, are you all right? President Qian is right. What Zhou Xianfei promised you was just a position. We can give you money, Mr. Shi persuaded. Lu Feng felt that something was wrong. Lu Feng, I think they are right, long-term interests can lead to a better life. Their funds are all backlogged in the big dairy cow project, and the shares are mortgaged to the bank. If they don't pay back, the factory will be auctioned off. Bai Yuanfang grabbed Lu Feng's hand and said, getting the factory back is the long-term solution. Yes, we can give you what you want. The factory is running in the hand, which is the money printing machine, and there is a steady stream of money. How much money can you give you when you go to work in the unit? We can give more. Lu Feng looked at a few people and then looked at Bai Yuanfang. Obviously, she also felt that she could not completely control the Zongnan food factory, and the common interests were damaged, so she stood together. What do you mean? Lu Feng asked. It's like this, if you stand up and become a tainted witness, we will go to the city intermediate court next door to sue Baiwen City. The probability of winning the case is very high, the big cow project is not established, the funds must be returned, and the court can order the local bank to return the mortgage. Equity. Yes, collect information now, find a lawyer, and it will be too late before the new year, President Xi said anxiously. Lu Feng looked at these people with a smile, and said, how much can you give me? How much money can you make as a college student? One person gives you 50,000 yuan, enough to spend your whole life, Qian Zongnan said proudly. 50,000 yuan per person is indeed a huge wealth for a college student. Although work is allocated, more people choose to go to sea to do business. Actually, I have quite a big appetite. I think that when your company's equity is auctioned off by the bank, I can try to sell it, Lu Feng said calmly, and glanced at a few people quietly. Everyone looked shocked, and sure enough, the worst had happened. What do you want to eat? I know you came by car, and you must have some money at home, but our factories are all big ones, and any one is worth more than 1 million, otherwise the bank won't be able to take it back. They're loans. I advise you to be careful, some meals are unpalatable, and you might choke to death. Besides, you are in a quarrel with your family, do you have that kind of money? Jin Sanyi's voice was full of threats, it's a matter of cooperation with us. Nice road. Oh, look at you guys, look at people in the cracks of the door, are you bullying me without money? Lu Feng smiled brightly and asked, "What if I take out the money?" Everyone present was a little suspicious, and even Bai Yuanfang began to panic, pulling Lu Feng's clothes with his hand and asking, "Don't be stubborn, let's talk about things well. Even if your family is rich, it is impossible to give out millions at once." Mr. Shi took a deep breath, lit a cigarette, looked at Lu Feng and said, "He's playing extreme pressure, you just want more. I tell you, the family will give you 50,000 yuan, you are not qualified to follow, we negotiate too many terms." As soon as Mr. Shi said these words, the others reacted with a sudden realization that he was asking for a price. 5,000 yuan from a family is already a lot. If you want to do business, we can take you with you. This is a condition. As for you saying that you will spend several million to buy our mortgaged equity in the bank, threaten we, miscalculated. Humph, I've never seen the world before. It's a few $1,000,000. If you take it out, take it out. There's a way to take it out, and let me see it. Jian Zongnan slapped the table as he spoke. The atmosphere in the room became even stiffer. Bai Yuanfang was a little anxious, for a good thing, it had to be so stiff. Should I take it out? Lu Feng leaned back on the chair and looked at the few people who had decided on him with a playful expression on his face. Take it out, I'll head out. Third Master Jin slapped the table, stood up and shouted, pointing at Lu Feng with his golden tweezers, "Unstoppable." Okay, Lu Feng took out a card from his body, put it on the table and said, "Please Mr. Jin, stand upside down and go out." Everyone applauds. "Are you kidding me? Take out a card and get money." Third Master Jin snorted and sat down and shouted, "Waiter, come in." The waiter pushed the door in and said, "Hello, sir, what service do you need? Do you have a POS machine? Check this card for this gentleman," Mr. Shi said. "Yes, on the 26th floor." Jian Zongnan picked up the card, handed it over, looked at Lu Feng and said, "I'm afraid you didn't expect a POS machine in this place. This is a 5-star hotel, you haven't seen any high-end things. I guess you even have a POS machine. Don't know anything, right? Don't be stubborn, it's the best choice to cooperate with us." Lu Feng didn't expect that Jian always knew that a POS machine had to be shown off, but that's right, these things are high-end things that ordinary people can't touch. When everyone saw him sitting there and didn't speak, they suddenly felt that the card was just a performance to raise the asking price. Everyone looked at each other and relaxed. A few minutes later, the waiter came in, put the card on the table, and said, "The money in the card has been checked." Third Master Jin looked at Lu Feng and said, "What do you want to say?" "I think it's fine. I'll save you some face. I'm quite a big man, and I'm still a college student. Since you give me face like this, then I won't give you face." Lu Feng waved his hand and said, "Speak." "There are 2,874,526 in this line card." The waiter suddenly found that after he finished speaking, everyone present became sluggish, as if shocked by the series of numbers. When she went upstairs to check, she was shocked to see so much money, but there is no shortage of rich people in this kind of place. "Do you need any other services?" Lu Feng waved his hand and let her go out. Bai Yuanfang can't believe his ears. How is this possible? Does he carry nearly 3 million cash with him? What is this concept? 30 years later, it is unbelievable that Carey is loaded with 300 million, and he is still a fresh graduate. Carey, didn't you say you just graduated? Bai Yuanfang asked in disbelief. "Who are you? You lied to me from beginning to end." As she spoke, tears rolled down her cheeks. Jin Sanyi and several people reacted, their eyes exuded ruthlessness, and their last move was ruined like this. "My name is Lu Feng. This is my real name. I'm not a college student, but I have postgraduate education. I'm the owner of GMA Food." "That's right, it's the GMA that Zhou Wyman supplies," Lu Fengji said word by word. At this moment, everything is understood, and everyone wants to understand the key. Jin Sanyi smiled and said, very good, I have heard about you, it is better to meet you if you are famous, give it to me after a lesson, let's wait and see, if you can get out of Baiwan City, I'll be in vain for Jin San's Hong. You threaten me. It's not a threat, it's that I really know how to do it. After Jin Sanyi finished speaking, he stood up and left. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 83. There were only two people left in the banquet hall, Lu Feng and Bai Yuanfang. Lu Feng was smoking a cigarette. In a few days, the bank would auction the shares of these factories, and the matter should end. As for the counter-attack of Jin Sanyi, he had to tell Zhou Xianfei that he had helped him so much. After going through everything in his mind, Lu Feng turned his head to look at Bai Yuanfang, and found that she had stopped crying, and said, I've troubled you for a while, and things are done. Goodbye bye fate. What did you say? Bai Yuanfang looked at him with red eyes and said, are you going to slap me? Who do you think of me? Do you want to leave after patting your butt? Let's talk about it first, it's you who slept with me, I don't want it, you're pulling the quilt and riding on me again. I like you so much, you will let me go now. I have nothing. I was deceived by Qian Zongnan and beaten by him. I found a little hope in you. You are saying this to me now? I'm shameless. No, in your eyes, I am such a woman, you are a big man, just like a woman, half push and half, after enjoying it, you want to leave. Bai Yuanfang choked up as he spoke. We've only known each other for less than 2 months. You say you like me, love me, isn't that nonsense? Lu Feng looked at her coldly, took a cigarette and said, if I remember correctly, it was me. When you say you are a college student, you look at me with glowing eyes, you just want to play college students, how can it become love? Yes. I'm a bitch, I fantasize about so many futures, and I still want to give birth to a child for you. These days, I miss it all by myself. Now I have nothing. In the end, I'm just a poor bastard being used by others. Stop it, Lu Feng stood up and said, maybe we have different feelings. To be honest, I sympathized with you that night. You were beaten like that, but when I said I was a college student, you wanted to sleep with me. I'm 5 or 6 years older, and I don't even know what you say. I eat tender grass, and I'm still pretending to be pitiful. It's boring. I'm not an amorous boy of 18 or 19. If you are gentle, I will accompany you. Go to hell. After Lu Feng finished speaking, he was ready to go back. Bai Yuanfang saw him leave like this, unmoved at all, and hurriedly stood up and followed out, chasing him all the way to the door of the room. What happened again? Let me tell you the news, I'm pregnant, Bai Yuanfang said calmly. I also tell you some news. I have a wife and a daughter who has been sterilized. If you are pregnant, please go to Qian Zongnan. It must be his, Lu Feng said angrily. I was wrong, I really can't live without you, I like you, I am happy every day with you, you divorce your wife, stay with me, I love you more than her. Bai Yuanfang fiercely he hugged Lu Feng and said. Don't talk to me about this kind of love, love is the most hypocritical thing in the world, I want to vomit when you hear it. Lu Feng sighed and said, if you are 18 or 19 this year and look beautiful, is still a place, and I still have money, I will take the initiative to tell you what you said to me. Why are you so callous, ruthless, and unreasonable? Bai Yuanfang asked tearfully. Isn't this a humming line from Qian Yao's drama? Lu Feng frowned and used TV lines to trick him, it was funny, he pushed her away and cursed, go to Nima. When Lu Feng entered the room, he heard Bai Yuanfang crying outside the door. The whole person was one big and too big, so they shouldn't have had a relationship in the first place. A few minutes later, before she left, Lu Feng opened the door, looked at her and said, "I really believe in you, what I promised you was not done, so let's say, when I buy it, I will." The Zongnan food factory was photographed, and I paid for your equity, so if you have money in your hand, you can live well. Bai Yuanfang was sobbing. She thought that the pear blossoms she cried were raining, which made Lu Feng's heart soften. She deliberately imitated the little girl and pouted. She coquettishly said, "But people want to be with you." I'm not allowed to talk like that, it's a bit disgusting, really." Lu Feng frowned, took a deep breath and said, "That's it, now you go home." Bai Yuanfang stood up and ran into the house, sat down on the bed, and said, "You won't leave for a while, I want to sleep with you." "What are you thinking?" "I have already solved the problem for you." Lu Feng's face darkened. "I really like you, you don't need to divorce your wife, you are supplying the factory over there anyway, so you said that you are here on a business trip and stay with me for half a month every month. This marriage is so far apart anyway, who knows?" Bai Yuanfang's eyes widened, as if he had found a new way. Lu Feng stood there and didn't speak, looking at her coldly. If she was a little girl who had never experienced emotions, Lu Feng would definitely imagine that she loved someone with a heart-piercing love. But a woman who has experienced marriage, a woman who is almost 30 years old, only wants to maximize the benefits. Bai Yuanfang thought very simply. What he thought before was to get the factory, take care of Lu Feng, a college student, and enjoy it for a few days, but now that Lu Feng is rich, he will marry him. If you can't live with a man, why don't you find someone rich? Besides, he spends about 10 days a month, and the rest of the time is not arranged by himself. But now I find that this person is more rational than himself and knows how to maximize profits. Believe it or not, I will beat you as hard as Qian Zongnan in a hotel in the county seat." Lu Feng stared at her and said. Hearing this, Bai Yuanfang gave up, stood up and said, "Then what are you talking about?" "Absolutely, I will do what I promised at the beginning, you can go." Lu Feng pointed at the door. "Then you should be more careful. The third master Jin said that he wants to mess with you. Don't let anything happen. I am very grateful for the time you spent with me. I am really happy." Bai Yuanfang walked to the door and glanced at Lu Feng, feeling a little bit in her heart. Reluctant. She knew that she would never meet such a person in her life. With such good conditions, the person who made her heart move slowly closed the door. Bai Yuanfang stood at the door for a long time before leaving. Lu Feng lay on the bed a little upset, flipped through the calendar. It would take a few more days, and he didn't plan to go out in the next few days. Jin Sanyi is definitely a presence on the road. For 2 consecutive days, various elder brothers and younger brothers came to the door. On the third night, he was raided by the police and arrested 36 people at one time. The next morning, the headlines in the newspapers read, "The city destroyed a major murder case, hired a murderer to crash a car, and covered up the murder case with a car accident." The main culprit, Jin Sanzhong, was arrested. When Lu Feng saw the newspaper, he breathed a sigh of relief. In the past few days, apart from the restaurant, he was in the guest room. Even if the waiter cleaned the room, he was standing in the corridor, ready to run at any time. Not afraid to be fake. On the third day, the local economic daily announced a batch of short-term financial mortgage loan companies that were auctioned and announced, among them Zongnan Food, Linlang Food, etc. As for Jin Sanyi's factory, due to illegal transactions, tax evasion, etc., the court blocked it. Among these enterprises, the most suitable one to start with is Zongnan Food. The outside world has paid special attention to what happened in Baiwan City, especially the rich and powerful like Jin Sanzhong and Qian Zongnan. Some people who knew the inside story knew the ins and outs, but they were shocked for a long time, but Lu Feng's name had already left an impression in some people's minds. On the second day of the 12th lunar month, An article titled, "The owner of GMA Food has arrived in Baiwan City," and the report on injecting new vitality into the city's business community has attracted a lot of people's attention, especially the last sentence, "an era that belongs to GMA and its boss, towards our model money to come." The reason why it was noticed is because the publisher's signature, Baiwan City Office. When Lu Feng saw this report, he felt a little relieved. Zhou Xianfei was a very interesting person. At least he knew that he would reciprocate, and tomorrow would be the day of the auction. Lu Feng put down the newspaper and went to bed early. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 84. Early the next morning, when Lu Feng went downstairs, there were several people behind him. These people were policemen from the police station, although Mr. Jin entered. But who knows if Qian Zongnan and Shi Lang will be ruthless one day and do something out of the ordinary. During this time, they were protecting them. They got into the car and went straight to the auction house in the city. These factories are the targets of many people, and the competition may be a bit fierce. Capital verification was required to enter the venue. Lu Feng handed over the bank card and walked into the hall with the admission ticket 10 minutes later. There were already a lot of people, gathered in twos and threes, whispering, and Lu Feng's arrival attracted the attention of many people, who looked over here. Apart from the people from the Hometown Association, in the business world of Baiwan City, the more important identity is the owner of GMA Foodstuff, because Zhou Xianfei has promoted him on the platform. "Boss Lu." "Hello, hello," a polite voice came. Lu Feng turned his head and saw a man in his 40s, with a strong body and a smile. Lu Feng stretched out his hand and said, "Hello, who are you?" "Tianhui Food Processing. You may not have seen me, but Mr. Gao has seen me. I went there more than 10 days ago, and now I am one of your partners." Oh, Lu Feng said politely, he should find a supplier to replace Zhou Weiman. "My surname is Wang, and my name is Wang Tianhui. Why are you here today? Are you planning to shoot something?" Wang Tianhui said with a familiar look. "I heard that the third Master Jin's house is going to be filmed today, and the yard is looking good. It's like the Chiao family courtyard. Boss Lu should buy it. It seems that the third Master Jin has been investigated thoroughly, and even the Jin mansion in the suburbs is going to be auctioned." Lu Feng looked at him and said with a smile, "I can't afford it. Is Boss Wang going to buy it?" "Don't dare to call me the boss. I'm nothing in front of Mr. Lu. I just came to see, although I supply you, but I am a small workshop, the output is not high, the supply for you are all big factories, but I still know the industry well." Wang Tianhui is a careful person. He came here today for Lu Feng. He knew that once Lu Feng took over the factory, suppliers like him would be kicked out immediately. Now that the industry has undergone drastic changes, the association of hometowns has collapsed. For a person like him who relies on the people in the association to drink soup, he really wants to drink the northwest wind this time. His idea was just that, to find a way to work for Lu Feng. From enterprise management, worker payroll accounting, market, internal management, ingredient formula, assembly line, etc., to the start of the auction, sitting next to Lu Feng is still muttering. "Okay, let's be quiet, don't talk about it." Lu Feng waved his hand. "Mr. Lu, if you don't have to go to the market to supply your own factory, it's very simple. As long as you manage your employees well, it's easy to say." Wang Tianhui finished speaking in a low voice. "Today's auctions are a bit mixed, ranging from antiques to homes and equity. The antique bowls in front of them cost thousands, tens of thousands." Lu Feng was dazzled. He knew that some antiques appreciated very quickly, but he didn't understand them, so he could only sit there and watch. The auction was coming to an end in the morning. The auctioneer looked at the time and was in a hurry. He took out the list and looked at it, and said, "I'm sorry for delaying everyone's mealtime. The last is the company's equity auction. The first one is Linlang Food Processing Co., Limited, with 76% equity, the starting price is 500,000, and each increase is not less than 50,000. 600,000. Someone in the front row has already made an offer. 700,000. Listening to the rapidly rising numbers, Lu Feng frowned. Shi Lang's factory was still very valuable, a little bigger than Qianzongnan's, and its market value was higher. After a while, it had reached 1.7 million. Lu Feng, who originally wanted to bid, had no choice but to give up. It was so easy to get 1.7 million, and it was impossible to go up without 2.5 million. Sure enough, it was finally sold for 2.95 million, including ownership of plant, real estate, machinery, market, and products. Bought by a foreign machinery manufacturing company. Don't be discouraged if you don't get it. Next is Zongnan Food Processing Co., Limited, with 51% equity. The starting price is 500,000, and each increase shall not be less than 50,000. 600,000. Many people whispered, they felt that the efficiency of this factory was not as good as Shi Lang's, and the factory was smaller than Shi Lang's. Most importantly, the 51% stake was very dangerous. 700,000. 75,000. 800,000. Lu Feng took a look. There were mainly two people bidding for the auction. One was Mr. Han, who used to be under the third Master Jin, and the other was somewhat similar to Qianzongnan and looked like relatives. Obviously, Qianzongnan did not give up and wanted to get the factory back, but he owed too much money to the bank and would not be able to get it for a while. I'll pay 850,000. An auctioneer stood up and looked at President Han. Please sit down, don't disturb the order of the auction venue, or you will be disqualified from the auction. The auctioneer noticed something and reminded sharply. The sign that President Han originally wanted to raise was put down, obviously to give Qianzongnan a face. 85,000, is there still the highest one? I'll give you 1 million, Lu Feng raised his hand and said. Wow! There was an uproar in the audience, and they all turned their heads. When they saw Lu Feng, they seemed relieved. There were rumors that he and Qianzongnan's wife were unclear. The rest of the equity belonged to his wife. It's safe to hand. 1.5 million. 101 million. 150,000. 1,200,000. Lu Feng held up the sign and said, I have a small 3 million, you can shout, I will see how much you have put together. 3 million? There was chatter on the spot, and many people were spreading the lace news between Lu Feng and Qianzongnan, not to mention spending 3 million, even 2 million was not worth it. Qianzongnan only borrowed 1.7 million for these equity loans. Quiet. Quiet, the auctioneer maintained the order of the venue, looked at Lu Feng and said, please sit down, or you will be disqualified and the auction will continue. 1,300,000. 135,000. 1.4 million. The other party shouted. I remind you, please make sure that you have enough funds. If you can't pay and cause the auction to pass in, the deposit will not be returned, the auctioneer said. What do you mean by that? Are you helping him? The man stood up and said, dissatisfied. The scene was also chattering, and the auctioneer's words were equivalent to giving Lu Feng the bottom line. The other party only had about 1.4 million funds. Be quiet, or you will be disqualified from the auction. The scene fell silent, and Lu Feng smiled at the auctioneer and said, 1.5 million. If this friend continues to increase the price, I won't want it. The other party looked at Lu Feng, babbled for a long time, and finally did not raise the placard. The price was close to the bank loan. 1.5 million, the deal. The auctioneer dropped the hammer. At lunchtime, Wang Tianhui sat opposite Lu Feng again, first flattering, then helping Lu Feng buy the order, and talking about the factory. First of all, I can give you a chance, but my management model is different from others. Don't think that the sky is high and the emperor is far away. After you become the factory manager, you can do whatever you want, do assessments every month, and check financial accounts. If you don't meet the standards, you can leave. Seeing that he was about to speak, Lu Feng said solemnly, "Shut your mouth and eat." After paying the money in the afternoon and completing the formalities, Lu Feng asked Wang Tianhui to leave a phone call. The staff of this factory could not move until a few years ago, and they will move after that. After returning to the hotel in the evening, the first thing I did was call Bai Yuanfang. "Who is it?" a lazy voice came from the other end of the phone. "It's me. I've already got the equity of Zongnan factory. I'll take a look at the factory tomorrow morning. I heard that it's still in production. Also, what price do you pay for those shares?" "That's up to you, $1 is fine, $1 million is fine." "I'm talking to you, can we be serious?" "I don't want to be serious, I divorced him, and now there is no need for others to point behind their backs. According to the market price, it is worth more than 1 million yuan. You give me 900,000 yuan. Today, on the 3rd day of the 12th lunar month, you will accompany me to the 2nd day of the 12th lunar month. Go back in 13. Who do you take me for?" "A duck," Lu Feng shouted angrily and hung up the phone. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 85. The next morning, Lu Feng drove to the factory. The scale of Zongnan Food Factory is not small. It has 400 employees and covers an area of 290 acres. At present, the factory has developed 170 acres, and the future development prospects are still there. Very good. As Qian Zongnan lost control of the factory, some important figures such as the general manager and production director have left, but the factory is still running. A banner has been pulled up at the door, saying that Mr. Lu is welcome to visit and guide the work. Lu Feng parked the car, walked to the security room at the door and said, "Open the door. No outsiders are allowed in. You wrote that you welcome me, call out whoever is in charge now." Lu Feng pointed at the banner. 10 minutes later, a man in his 40s trotted out, followed by 2 or 3 people. When he saw Lu Feng, he hurriedly stepped forward and said, "Mr. Lu, hello, we know you are coming, you are getting ready for work, I didn't expect you to come in the morning. Are you in charge now?" Lu Feng looked at him and asked. "I used to be the deputy manager, mainly in charge of internal staff. The previous general manager was in charge of the market. My name is Li Mo. Let me introduce to President Lu. This is Ding Finance, this is Director Niu, who is in charge of production, and this is Wu Xiaolong, responsible for purchasing." Everyone introduced them one by one. Either he was promoted recently or he was a former deputy. Seeing this situation, Lu Feng felt a little more at ease. If Qian Zongnan arranged a few inappropriate people for him, it would greatly affect production. "Take me to see it." Recently, at the end of the year, coupled with such a big incident in Qian Zongnan, people are panicking, and the market is also a little sluggish, basically in a state of semi-shutdown. The warehouse and finances were all normal. Lu Feng sat in the office and looked at the pictures of ladies on the wall. It was looming and very seductive. Lu Feng slapped his mouth and said, "Let's throw all these things away, it's very tacky, and also, you don't have to worry, it was like this a few years ago, I bought this factory mainly to support GMA Food, and I don't have to worry about the market. A big boss like President Lu definitely has this strength. Yes, at first glance, Mr. Lu looks like a hero out of a boy, not an ordinary person. Okay, stop talking nonsense, I'll change the name of this factory this year. You can rebrand it and change it to GMA Food. I'll do it in a minute." At noon, he ate in the cafeteria, and when Lu Feng was taking a lunch break, Bai Yuanfang knocked on the door of the office. Are you asleep? Bai Yuanfang pushed open the door and sat down. Lu Feng got up, looked at her and said, "Why did you come at noon? Did you bring all the formalities?" Bai Yuanfang stared at him and asked with the last glimmer of anticipation, "Why don't you think about it? You don't suffer, you can only make money, or I'm old and ugly, so you dislike me so much." Lu Feng hurriedly raised his hand to stop her from continuing, and said, "I'm a businessman, and it's taboo to talk about love in the business world. Let's go through the formalities. What price are you going to sell at?" 1,200,000, Bai Yuanfang said coldly. "Okay, deal," Lu Feng said and walked towards the door. After going to the Industrial and Commercial Bureau to change the person in charge of equity, Lu Feng officially became the legal person of Zhongnan Food Factory and owns 100% of the equity. In the afternoon, Zhongnan Food was changed to GMA Food. In the evening, when he returned to the hotel, Lu Feng sat in the room and looked at the scenery outside. He felt empty in his heart. Everything he had to do had been done, and it was time to go back. Picked up the phone in the house and called home. "Hey, who is it?" Zhang Xiaoyan's voice came from the other end of the phone. "It's me, I'm done here, I'll go back tomorrow." "Are you done? You haven't called home for so long. President Gao told me a few days ago that you called them." Zhang Xiaoyan choked up as she spoke. "Is it Dad?" There were many voices on the phone. "When will we be able to change the problem of crying when we are excited?" Lu Feng was speechless while holding the phone. Said, Duo, are you there?" Duo answered the phone and said in a milky voice, "Dad, when are you coming back? Remember me to buy toys, dolls. Isn't there a doll? I screwed that doll's head off." Lu Feng sighed helplessly. This little guy is a little expert, and chatted about the recent situation at home. Zhang Xiaoyan told him that he would have to go home in a few days. After saying a few words, I hung up the phone and looked at the white moonlight outside the window. Now is the last day of 1989. After tonight, it will be January 1st, 1990. There is no problem with the raw materials, and there is no worries. This year's Wahaha should be a year of explosion. Lu Feng's face was full of excitement. He never thought that he would one day fight Wahaha. At 10 o'clock the next morning, Lu Feng backed out of the room, warned him to say goodbye to the people who were protecting him, and drove back. When he left Baiwan City, he saw a few cars listening to him at the intersection, and Zhou Xianfei was standing beside him. "Why? Send me," Lu Feng stopped the car and asked. "You are a hero, I should send you. You helped me solve the situation. Without you, I really don't know what to do. Now you are famous in one battle, and the province knows you," Zhou Xianfei said with a smile. "Don't dare." Lu Feng got out of the car, scattered a row of smoke for everyone, and said, "I'm just a businessman, just a little guy. Mr. Huang told me that he wanted to recruit you as a driver. I was even thinking about hiring you as an external secretary. Now it seems that we both underestimate you. You are a talented person." Zhou Xianfei seriously. "Stop praising me again, and I'm going to float away. I can sense that your future is limitless. Even if one day, you become the richest man, I don't find it strange. You have ideas and courage. Let me borrow your auspicious words, and wish you a high rise. Are you interested in opening a factory in Baiwan? Your products are in high demand in the market. I went to the market yesterday and bought 2 kilograms. To be honest, it's not very tasty. Those children are like magic." Zhou Xianfei disgusted. The people next to him nodded in agreement. Lu Feng laughed out loud. Children's food will definitely not be optimized and product biased for adults. It's enough to have raw materials to process in Baiwan. If you open a branch, you will go to other provinces, and next year will be a blockbuster year, and we will promote GMA food to the whole country. Look, I'll say he has big ambitions. I'm still thinking about it in a few years, and this will start to spread across the country. Zosian Fi joked. I'll go first. The road is not easy to walk. I really didn't expect you to come and deliver. I'm very grateful. If I meet you in the future, I hope to give more discounts, land, loans, and so on. Don't worry, I can give it. I will definitely give it to you. Now it's time to attract investment. Lu Feng waved his hand, got into the car, and sped off into the distance. If it was an ordinary person, this kind of difference would probably be rare in the last 10 years. As a person 30 years later, Lu Feng couldn't imagine the clutter of the current road and the extremely inconvenient traffic. Ordinary people don't have pagers and landlines. Going out is equivalent to losing contact. Perhaps, seeing what you want to see and going where you want to go is a luxurious way of life in itself. Halfway through the road, Lu Feng remembered that he didn't buy toys for Duo. When passing a county town, he bought a 1-meter-high bear and a lot of dolls. He also bought a down jacket for Zhang Xiaoyan. Back downstairs, it was already past 7 o'clock in the evening, and Lu Feng knocked on the door with something. Who is it? Zhang Xiaoyan came out and glanced at the cat's eye. When she saw it was Lu Feng, she smiled unconsciously and hurriedly opened the door. It's back. Don't cry, Lu Feng looked at her and smiled. People said that Xiaobi was better than a newlywed. This was true. Looking at Zhang Xiaoyan in front of him, Lu Feng had an indescribable feeling. The figure is bulging forward and backward, the small waist that Yingying holds is indescribably attractive, and the tight face. Now that she has money, her life is naturally guaranteed. Although she is rather stingy, she is reluctant to spend money, but the clothes, cosmetics, or something is not cheap, and even raised a bit of extravagance. Sure enough, women are nourished by money. The more Lu Feng looked, the more delighted he became. He dropped the things in his hand, and slammed her into his arms, hugged her, lowered his head and kissed her. You close the door. Zhang Xiaoyan was anxious and embarrassed, knowing that he was very aggressive, but it was too embarrassing to be at the door. Duo ran out of the bedroom, and when he saw his father hugging his mother in a hurry, he ran over and shouted, Hug! Hug! You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 86. Lu Feng is back. The news spread rapidly. For the local business community, he gave too many unexpected surprises in a short period of time, as if there was nothing he couldn't do. Even Ren Qianbo was called a son-in-law, relying on his father-in-law's relationship to walk step by step. Lu Feng has traveled the road of others for decades in only half a year. How can this not be surprising, but for people who know things about Baiwan City, it is more shocking, and some people are destined to be different. Mr. Huang was eating and watching TV, his mind was long gone. At the end of each year, there is a local habit of calling some local wealthy businessmen and some leaders to have a meal. Especially now that investment promotion is advocated, and more cooperation is required. At this level of dinner, all are big bosses, either mixed state-owned enterprises or large trans-provincial enterprises, and local small enterprises basically do not go. Let's eat, what are you thinking about? The one who opened the factory again? My ears are almost full of calluses these days, Mrs. Wang's wife said angrily. Do you think I can help him? Aren't you going to leave? Love to help or not? Mr. Huang put down the tableware and sighed, this kind of talent is rare, it's just a dinner party, just pull one. At 9 o'clock in the morning the next day, Lu Feng hadn't woken up yet, and Duo was already awake, jumping on the bed. Zhang Xiaoyan was speechless, got up and said, I'm going to cook breakfast. Don't move, Lu Feng pressed her on the bed, looked at Duo and said, "You go out to play, I'll talk to my mother about something." "No. No, stinky dad, bully mom, don't go out. Do you have any conscience? I bought you so many toys. If you are disobedient, I will send you to kindergarten after the new year," Lu Feng threatened. "Mom is mine, so I won't give it to you," the little guy said with a bright face, lying on Zhang Xiaoyan's body, hugging his neck, and deliberately said, "I'm mad at you, I'm mad at you." Zhang Xiaoyan was amused by her quirky appearance and gave her a kiss on the face. "This padded jacket isn't his own," Lu Feng sighed. The smile on Zhang Xiaoyan's face suddenly disappeared. She hit Lu Feng with her hand and glared at him. Duo also felt something, and sat there dumbfounded. When she was in the old house, the child downstairs said she was wild child. "What nonsense, every day, get up and cook." Zhang Xiaoyan took Duo to the living room. Lu Feng thought it was just a joke, what does a 4-year-old child know, but when he saw Duo sitting on the sofa, he was gloomy, and she felt something different. Lu Feng has never had children, let alone how to get along with a child. He has never experienced the feeling of a non-native family. He got dressed and walked out of the bedroom, walked to Duo, squatted down and grabbed her little tender hand. "Sorry." Zhang Xiaoyan never thought that Lu Feng would apologize to a child, so she stood in the kitchen and stared blankly. There were tears in Duo's big eyes, and her young heart felt aggrieved and couldn't tell. "For the sake of buying so many toys for you, forgive Dad." Lu Feng picked her up as he spoke, and the little guy burst into tears. The phone at home rang. Lu Feng coaxed a lot, answered the phone and said, "Who is it?" "Boss Lu, it's me, Huang Yue, why is your child crying?" "Mr. Huang, long time no see." "Yes, I'm coaxing the child." Lu Feng smiled awkwardly and said, "It's still thanks to you. If it wasn't for your face, Zhou Xianfi, I wouldn't have been polite to me. When I was there, I personally gave me a ride, and I will invite you to dinner when I have time. You don't have to be free. There will be a dinner party the night after tomorrow. There will be many people, all of them are big companies. Besides, I'm going to be transferred." "What? Are you going to be transferred?" "Congratulations, Gao Shen." Lu Feng thought about it politely, and said, "Okay, I will definitely go." After hanging up the phone, Zhang Xiaoyan stuck her head out and asked, "Who is it?" "Mr. Huang. Let me have a dinner party." Lu Feng patted Duo on the back, thinking in his heart, this dinner must be unusual, otherwise he will be transferred away, and he has to call himself, obviously wanting to win over. Except for the rich second generation, no one has a relationship at birth, but many relationships are formed slowly. Lu Feng knows that he is doing well, and Mr. Huang wants to win over his relationship. If it is flat, and I don't think I need it, it may be Gao's Hung, who manages a city or something. When there is a need to attract investment, they will come to the door. It's been almost 2 months since he went to the factory. Lu Feng hugged Duo to eat. The little guy doesn't look cute. It's sloppy to eat a meal. Lu Feng handed her over to Zhang Xiaoyan, got up and changed his clothes. There was no grass around the original factory, and there were several houses not far away that no one lived in, but now it is bustling. Those houses have been converted into restaurants, and people come to buy goods in an endless stream. The weather is cold now. If it is summer, I am afraid that there will be stalls everywhere. GMA food has turned a barren land into a lively market. The factory is more standardized, and the ground is cleaner and tidy. Lu Feng even felt that Gao Jiwei had a feeling of coping with the inspection, which was many times better than when he left. "Hello, Mr. Lu." "Hello, factory manager." "Hello, chairman." The various names are dazzling, and Lu Feng responded one by one. Everyone knew the original small workshop, but now all the faces are fresh. This factory is already full, and it is not easy for him to recognize all the employees, even the managers. At the door of the office, Datu walked out from the finance department, saw Lu Feng grinning, and said, "Brother Feng, you are so thin. You're getting fat." Lu Feng smiled and said, "Where's Mr. Gao?" The door of the office next to him opened, and Gao Jiwei walked out with a smile on his face. The arrogance from before, the arrogance that descended from a big company to a small factory, disappeared without a trace. "Welcome Mr. Lu back, you really have made great achievements. There is nothing that can't be won in a company with people like you. Back then, Yi Guan went to the meeting alone, but now you are alone in the tiger's den, and you have won such a large factory. Stop flattering, what about your arrogance? You used to talk back to me." Lu Feng wondered. Gao Jiwei stretched out his thumb and said, "I've taken it, completely taken it. Notify people about the meeting. It's the end of the year. Let's get a feel for the situation and the expansion next year." Lu Feng waved his hand and walked into the office. Half an hour later, there were more than a dozen people standing in the office, and the small office was full of people. Lu Feng looked at these people and said, "Why are there so many people? Mr. Lu, our factory now has more than 870 people. It's a big factory. There are still some unimportant managements that haven't come," Gao Jiwei whispered. "Okay, let's meet in another place." In a large conference room, it was originally a small warehouse. It was remodeled. Lu Feng flipped through the folders in front of him. The profit was really good, and the market demand was huge, but now it was limited by suppliers, and the potential development could not be developed. "Come out. This is basically the case this year, it's very good, and we have our own raw material manufacturing plant in Baiwan City. After the new year, Mr. Gao will bring a few people to see it. As for the person in charge, I have one here. You can select and select. The market demand has not been met this year. Expanding the scale of production is an important task for next year. There is only one requirement, that is, fast investment, fast production, and fast market occupation. Now our factory makes more than 1 million monthly profits. The goal of 10 million is to be achieved next year. The first is the provincial market, followed by the entire northern market. The goal next year is to quickly occupy the northern market and steadily advance to the southern market." Except for Datu, Gao Jiwei, and Han Dong, who were familiar with Lu Feng, the others were all shocked. It was too fast. Now it only covers a few cities, and it has already covered the whole area. Is it north? High-speed text handwriting returns to the 1989 chapter list. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 87. Also, the internal management is based on the assessment system. Starting from next year, there will be more and more branches, and management will become more and more difficult. We need a strong financial system. Introduce the partnership system. We must fully mobilize everyone's enthusiasm and focus on finances. Once there is a problem of misappropriating funds or getting cards, they will all be transferred to the public security organs. Lu Feng leaned back on his chair, looked at everyone present, his eyes fell on Datu, and then said, "The fate of many people present will be rewritten next year, whether you become an executive of a large company, or because of lack of ability. When you leave, it's all up to you. Internal management will become more and more strict. What do I want? What I want is that after I leave this company, it can still operate on its own." Gao Jiwei's mood was a little complicated. He thought that Lu Feng was suitable for small workshop management, but he didn't expect that he could manage large enterprises with ease, like a natural manager. As for him being the shopkeeper, Gao Jiwei still feels that it is too early, and whether it can be done depends on the specific situation after the opening of the branch next year. Originally, Gao Jiwei's idea was not to take too much risk. First, set up a point to conduct market experiments. Once the situation is not satisfied, it will be withdrawn immediately. This method is the safest. He didn't expect Lu Fengfeng to do this. After all, he is an adventurous person, but he really didn't expect this situation. Mr. Lu, if we open a lot of factories next year, we will be limited in terms of funds. We did make money in the last few months of this year, but we bought factories in Baiwan City with all the profits, Gao Jiwei reminded. Yes, Brother Feng, the account is less than 1 million, and the wages of the employees have not yet been paid, Datu said hurriedly. Lu Feng looked at the two of them. His big head had no brains. He just wanted to tell Lu Feng that the money was not enough, and Gao Jiwei wanted Lu Feng not to take too many risks. Do you still need money to build a factory? Which province in the country is not attracting investment now? When you go to the land, you will give it for free. First, you rent the local factory for production, and then take the free land and mortgage it to the bank to borrow money to build the factory. The factory will generate profits after production. To repay the loan, don't think about relying on the parent company for blood transfusion, and you need to be flexible in your thinking, and change your bike into a motorcycle. Some people who knew the operation process at the scene broke down in a cold sweat when they heard Lu Feng's words. What a leverage! You have to learn how to grow with debt. What can you do with just the money you have? The market demand is strong. When you earn enough money to open a factory, the daily will be cold, and the market will not wait for anyone. Lu Feng patted the table with his hand. Said, at the same time, starting next year, I will dilute 30% of my personal shares to form part of the dry shares, which will be rewarded to middle managers, and the rest will be placed in the partner pool. I hope everyone will work harder. It was the end of the year, and the factory not only had a firm foothold, but also made a profit. Lu Feng knew the truth. If you want a horse to run, you have to feed the horse. The majority of the factory owns 5% of the shares and pays 100,000 yuan in dividends. As the general manager, Gao Jiwei will reward the annual salary, the veterans who opened the factory, etc., which adds up to 35,000 yuan. The money on the account, except for the employee's salary this month, was squandered by Lu Feng, and he was rewarded. But there is one thing: if you want to get money, you have to be in March next year. If you perform well, you will be rewarded. If you perform well, you will be deducted and even fired. The management of the entire factory was excited and worried. At the same time, Lu Feng announced that the wages of the employees in the factory would always be higher than other factories. High interests come with high requirements. Next year, the entire management team will adopt a points system. If they fail to meet the standards, they will leave. In fact, it is an assessment system, but the current system is a bit cruel. Lu Feng knew that Gao Jiwei was suitable for internal management and marketing, but he was not good at starting a business. He was too timid, so he did not say how many factories he would open next year. On the way back to the office, Gao Jiwei said, "Mr. Lu, shall we directly open 2 factories next year?" Lu Feng smiled and said nothing. "Where is it?" "The 2 factories have to be settled, which is very beneficial to market expansion. Let's talk later. You train me a group of suitable financial personnel, and gradually replace the big ones next year. I want to refine the future financial affairs, you know." "Understood, I've been doing this all the time. When you're not around, you need your signature for personnel transfers, and they're all on your desk." Gao Jiwei pointed to the folder in the room. "Don't ask me about the transfer of personnel in the factory in the future. If the personnel department changes a manager, I will sign it. In the future, if there are so many factories, I won't do anything. Just sign it all day long." Lu Feng patted him on the shoulder and said, "You have to learn to manage, take responsibilities, and form an enterprise system. From recruitment to appointment, to performance appraisal and resignation, each person must form an assembly line management." "I see. I'll decide where to open the factory. I'll tell you after the new year, Lu Feng said and entered the office. After closing the door, he glanced at Gao Jiwei quietly, made sure he was gone, and took out the map from under the table. If he wanted to catch up with Wahaha for a year, he would have to take some risks. Lu Feng looked at the map. He diluted so many shares to the management, just to give the management a stimulant next year. It was all money, and it was fake if he didn't feel bad. But in the long run, it's worth it. Next year, we have to prepare some money to deploy in the electronic field. Color TV should be about to explode. It is true that the first wave of baby boomers in the early 1990s is coming. The three major items now have big color TVs. Lu Feng muttered to himself, flipped through the map and said, if you want to be the richest man, you have to rely on your mother-in-law. What your mother-in-law wants, sons-in-law have to buy with their lives. Now the transportation cost is very high, and building a local factory is the cheapest way. Lu Feng looked at the map and counted it silently in his heart. Hebei, Henan, Shandong. If you want to completely cover the northern market, you need 16 factories with more than 1,000 people. All 16 factories were built using the debt model, betting risks on the market. Even lunatics dared not do this. Lu Feng did a rough calculation and found that the debt ratio was 2,300%. When Gao Jiwei heard this debt ratio, he probably went crazy on the spot. Even Lu Feng thought it was too crazy, but he knew that the children's food market was huge. Bet. Lu Feng picked up the pen and drew circles in various cities. After writing some remarks, he put the map back into the cabinet. If it was completed according to this layout, GMA Food would definitely be the giant of northern children's food. Wahaha has formed a pattern of north-south confrontation. The factory stopped work when I was young. The shipment volume is huge these days. Lu Feng doesn't want to stop work. Now people start preparing for the New Year's goods a month ago. In the small year, many markets have begun to close, and these few days are a good day to go to the market. Poor roads make transportation inconvenient, so everything has to be in advance. The house has been cleaned up. I have to say that Zhang Xiaoyan is a diligent woman. She washed all the things that could be washed in the house and hung up the red lanterns. Occasionally there are children setting off firefights, turning on the TV, and paying New Year's greetings everywhere. Lu Feng was eating, watching the TV, and said, "How much do you pay the TV station for New Year's greetings on TV?" "I don't know, it's probably not cheap. Some local TV stations can even post your wedding photos when you get married." "It's very foreign," Zhang Xiaoyan said a little sourly. "This function was also used when the two of us got married." After thinking about it, Lu Feng picked up the phone and called Gao Jiwei, and asked him to make a New Year's greeting video before the holiday, put it on the local TV station, and pay more money until after the Lantern Festival. "Didn't you say, what's the dinner tomorrow night?" Zhang Xiaoyan said as she packed up the tableware. "Yes, you also dress up, let's go together, Mr. Huang invited us. After we have attended this dinner, we will go to your house," Lu Feng said casually. "I think we should live by ourselves at home. My brother and my sister are going back. My sister has also found a partner and will take it home this year." Zhang Xiaoyan was a little confused. The last time Lu Feng went to her house for Chinese New Year was 2 years ago. He was ridiculed at the dinner table and got into a fight with her brother, only to be beaten to the ground by the family. "It's okay, it's all in the past," Lu Feng said indifferently. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 88. The next day, Lu Feng took the whole family out to buy new clothes, not only to wear warm clothes, but also to be decent. Today, he will bring Zhang Xiaoyan to the dinner. Zhang Xiaoyan kept pushing back. She was afraid that something would go wrong and Lu Feng would be embarrassed on this occasion. "That dress is too thin, it costs hundreds of dollars, And autumn clothes are so expensive in winter, Zhang Xiaoyan muttered, and was about to leave. Buy it, that one looks good on you. Are you going to freeze me to death? It's freezing outside now. I'm wearing a down jacket outside. I asked Mr. Huang. The heating in the room is very hot, and it's a high-class society. We don't wear any evening dresses, just this dress is generous, Lu Feng said to the shopping guide, just take that. Pack it up. I'll stay at home and chop some dumpling stuffing, I don't want to go, Zhang Xiaoyan muttered. Looking at her, Lu Feng sighed and said, be a housewife for a lifetime. I'm afraid of embarrassing you, plus the little guy is disobedient and starts crying. This is the first time you have participated in this kind of dinner, Zhang Xiaoyan said worriedly. She lowered her head and did not dare to look at Lu Feng. In fact, she knew that because self-abasement. She is just an ordinary woman, one who has never seen anything in the world, and has even gone out to the province. The outside world, the way of life and communication of rich people make her feel inferior. Neither can I, what should I do? Lu Feng walked up to her, reached out and raised her little head, and asked, I'm also afraid of embarrassment. I am. Who will be born? Lu Feng interrupted her and said, if you don't get used to it, you will never be. Besides, I have no face in the business world now, even if I make a lot of noise, I am just a child. Who cares about her? Even if you have something rude, you are so beautiful, you will look very cute. Zhang Xiaoyan felt warm when she heard Lu Feng's words, but she understood that this dinner was very important to Lu Feng because of the loss she caused to his career. Just as he was about to decline, he was decisively pushed back by Lu Feng. After buying clothes, the family of 3 had a big meal, and took Duo to the amusement park to play until after 4 o'clock in the afternoon, before returning home to change clothes. I have to say, Zhang Xiaoyan is absolutely perfect, no matter her figure or face. Wearing a long skirt that highlights her figure, Lu Feng also feels a bit ostentatious. This dress is not good. Zhang Xiaoyan looked at herself in the mirror, blushing, and said, it's too ostentatious, like that kind of rude woman. What nonsense, it's called sexy, let's just wear it. Lu Feng took a second look and put on a long down jacket for her. Tonight, even if a big star comes, Zhang Xiaoyan will definitely not pay attention. In the north of the city, a large open space was surrounded, and there was a village not far away. Everyone in the village knew that this enclosed area was a place where wealthy people gathered, and cars often came in and out. Now the land is worthless, whoever wants to occupy it can occupy it, and no one cares at all. Someone built a private clubhouse here. Unlike the Tianyu Hotel, this place shows the identity of the owner. The sky has just darkened, and the clubhouse is already brightly lit. From a distance, the room on the second floor is even more resplendent. The style displayed under the floor-to-ceiling windows is dazzling and dazzling. For the children in the village, it is like the legendary fairy palace. Generally, you must know that many places in the country have not yet been powered on, and some villages have just been powered on. A car sped in, and the people who came tonight were definitely rich or expensive. Lu Feng was driving the car and looked out the window curiously. When he saw the bright lights of the clubhouse, he opened his mouth wide and shouted, "Mama, look, look! So many lights, how much electricity do you need in one night?" Zhang Xiaoyan said while thinking about wasting electricity, "But it's really beautiful. It must be beautiful. In another 30 years, the lights will illuminate the entire continent. Now it is said that the city that never sleeps will be the country that never sleeps." Lu Feng drove his car into the fence gate. "How is that possible? How much electricity is that? I read the newspaper that day, and our country's power generation is still in short supply," Zhang Xiaoyan muttered. Lu Feng smiled and didn't speak. If it wasn't for seeing it with his own eyes, he wouldn't believe it, let alone imagine the past 90 years ago. There were already 2 rows of hostesses at the gate, shivering in the cold wind, but with a smile on their faces. 7 or 8 people gathered and greeted each other. Lu Feng parked the car in the parking lot next to him, got out of the car and walked towards the gate. "Mr. Zhao, please come inside. It's too cold outside. I hope you can take care of places where the reception is not well received." A bald middle-aged man was polite, and beside him stood a woman who looked only in her 30s. She was very expensive. Woman's taste. "Who is this person?" The middle-aged man held up his gold wire glasses and looked at Lu Feng, who was approaching. The level of this dinner was very high, and they were all people he knew. He could be sure that this person was in front of him. Everyone turned to look, and when they saw Lu Feng, one of the men said, "Isn't this GMA's boss? You didn't invite him." "Not at all. Are you here for dinner?" When Lu Feng was about to reach the door, he stopped, turned his head and glanced at Zhang Xiaoyan. She poked her hand coldly, and rushed over with Duo in her arms. Lu Feng took Duo over and said, "Let's go, it's warm inside." "Hello, welcome to Mengling Mansion, my name is He Kugong." The man with glasses stretched out his hand. "Hello, my name is Lu Feng." Lu Feng shook hands and said, "This is my wife." Zhang Xiaoyan was a little cold and nodded. "I don't think I know you." He Kugong glanced at Zhang Xiaoyan again and said, "I haven't invited you before." "Mr. Huang asked me to come." Lu Feng said, "Mr. Huang of Yegong Group, didn't he tell you? It's cold outside, can I let my wife and children in first?" "I'm sorry, I have to confirm with President Huang first. There are important people here. Let's not talk about any security problems, even if it causes some riots, it is not good. After all, this is a private mansion." The man next to him was arrogant. Looked at Lu Feng with indescribable contempt. As if to say, "What if you know you are the boss of GMA, let your wife and children freeze outside today? It's really cold outside, why don't you go back to the car and wait first?" He Kugong said, "I'm not a local, if there is anything that is not well received, please bear with me. Mr. He, you don't need to talk nonsense with him. He's just a factory owner. He just started a factory this year, and he's a poor man with little money." "That's right, you didn't invite him, you came to eat and drink yourself." Seeing that Lu Feng's face was ugly, Zhang Xiaoyan hurriedly said, "It's all right, don't bother, wait for Mr. Huang to come, let's go in together, we'll wait in the car first." "No wait, your dinner is too high-end, I can't afford it, don't freeze my wife and children." Lu Feng turned around and said, "Let's go home and sleep." Zhang Xiaoyan was dragged by him to the parking lot. "I really thought it would be awesome to have a small factory, and I don't even look at where this is. How about Mr. Huang?" "Mr. He, you don't live here, I don't know. You're just a second bastard. You know Mr. Huang, and people don't necessarily pay much attention to him." "That's right, I've seen a lot of upstarts like this. If you have some money, you're rich, so you want to get along with aristocrats like us." Just as Lu Feng walked to the parking lot, a voice came from behind him, "Boss Lu, why are you leaving?" Lu Feng turned his head and saw Mr. Huang getting out of the car. He took out the down jacket from the back seat, put the clothes on Zhang Xiaoyan, and said, "Boss, he has a few dogs by his side, so he won't let him in." "Ah," Mr. Huang was stunned for a moment, then he laughed dumbly and said, "He's just a broker, we locals still look at his face. I'm so anxious that I will demolish this illegally built thing for him tomorrow. Don't be angry, don't angry, give my brother a face. Is this a younger brother and sister? It's the first time I've seen him. Mr. Huang, right?" "Hello." Zhang Xiaoyan held out her hand. "I'm calling Mr. Huang to see the outside world, and I'll just call Mr. Huang. I didn't arrange it well. I blamed me. At first, I saw Boss Lu as a smart person. The child is so cute, exactly like you." Mr. Huang's previous words were still the same, and the last sentence was purely nonsense with his eyes open. Hearing this, Lu Feng couldn't help but laugh. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 89. Seeing Lu Feng's smile, Mr. Huang hurriedly said, "Let's go and trouble him. Even Boss Lu doesn't know him. I don't know that you, Mr. Lu, will be a powerful person in the second half of this year." Huang Youwei kept coaxing, and Lu Feng was no longer angry. This face was still to be given, for fear that Zhang Xiaoyan would catch a cold, and he also thought the long dress was too sexy, so he let her wear a down jacket. "Mr. Huang is here, it's full of brilliance, congratulations to Gao Shen." He Kugong walked over with his fists folded, and said with a smile on his face, "If I want to see President Huang in the future, I'm afraid I have to go to the municipal government to find it. I asked a friend to come over to cheer you on. Why don't you know what's good and bad, and keep everyone's family out of the door and freeze?" Mr. Huang asked directly. He just saw Huang Youwei persuading Lu Feng over there, and he knew that he should come to ask, but he didn't expect it to be so direct. His face was a little overwhelmed. He looked at Lu Feng and said, "I'm really sorry, I don't know, give it to Boss Lu." Sorry to say. Lu Feng stood there without speaking, and looked at the few people beside him. "Just now, you said something to me, and what you said was very lively, but now he is standing there and doesn't speak. Mr. He, you are doing a job that greets you with a smile. When you are a broker, you have the consciousness of being a broker. There are some things that you can't understand. People can gather together, not to give you face, but to give other people's face. You are just a puller." Yes, I'm fine. 3 drinks in a while for this matter." He Kugong's face was a little overwhelmed, but everyone had received the order. Don't talk about scolding him, just beat him, it can be settled tonight, without worries. Huang Youwei is invincible. Please, He Kugong made a gesture of invitation. Let's go first, it's cold outside, don't freeze the child." Mr. Huang looked at Duo with a smile, and walked in. After Lu Feng and the others entered, He Kugong straightened up, and a few people beside him muttered, "What is a bull from a steel smelting group? I've been promoted, and I'll leave after the new year." Now no one agrees. It's all virtue. The last month or two of the quick transfer are all walking sideways, and whoever wants to be attacked will be attacked. "Okay, shut up," He Kugong frowned and shouted, "You two are waiting here, I'm in, remember to call me when someone important comes." The interior lights are bright, and the floor-to-ceiling windows make the place extraordinarily atmospheric. Inside is a huge meeting room. When you walk in, you can see some catering, which are dazzlingly placed, giving you the feeling of a high-end buffet in the future. But now it is very high-end. One person holds a small saucer and a goblet, which is definitely more pretentious than sitting in Starbucks in later generations. Duo stared at so much food, obviously shocked. Zhang Xiaoyan looked around and whispered, "It's so luxurious here. Are those things free for people to eat?" "Yeah, you're here, and you need money for food," Lu Feng said with a smile. "Then how much do you have to eat this night?" "That person is very rich, and he can afford to eat and drink for free. There's only a few dollars here. People can earn more than 10 times this meal. You can bring a lot of food to eat casually," Lu Feng instructed. "Mom, I want to eat that." Duo pointed at the roast duck road not far away. "You child, don't point fingers," Zhang Xiaoyan rebuked. "What does she know as a child? It's okay, she can eat whatever she wants." Lu Feng saw that Zhang Xiaoyan was a little nervous, and told her that he was at home. All these people came to win the relationship, and no one cared. Zhang Xiaoyan walked over with Duo, and Lu Feng turned his head and scattered a cigarette for Mr. Huang, and said, "Where is Mr. Huang?" "I don't know yet. It is estimated that I will go to the south. If President Lu goes to the south to open a factory, he must think of me. I have already started to have a headache for attracting investment. Don't worry, anyone who can help you will definitely help you. Zhou Xianfei called me a few days ago, but kept complimenting you, saying that you have a great future. Mr. Huang sat on the sofa beside him, lit a cigarette, and said, "You have done this beautifully." The province has begun to notice that business gangs like Jin Sanzhong and Qianzongnan are local cancers, but it is not easy to start, and the local industry collapses when you move. You cooperated with Zhou Xianfei to successfully perform a surgical operation. I've won the prize, and I'm doing it for myself. That's also beautiful. There is a heavy weight today. Let me introduce you. As for the situation, it depends on your own good fortune. Hearing this, Lu Feng wondered what heavy weight was making him so solemn. After a while, 3 or 4 bosses approached. Everyone was polite and exchanged business cards. In this case, it was people who knew each other. Lu Feng held a half glass of red wine in his hand, and occasionally touched the glass with people. I also learned about several companies in other provinces, from transportation companies, resource exploration companies, terminal freight transportation, etc. It can be said that there are various kinds. In less than an hour, Lu Feng already has a stack of business cards in his hand. "Mr. Lu, come here." Mr. Wu, who had just met, waved to Lu Feng. Lu Feng walked over and asked, "What's the matter?" "Introduce you to a powerful person, absolutely amazing, a master." The other party looked up with admiration. When Lu Feng heard the word master, he didn't want to know him. In the 1990s, master was rampant, and there were all kinds of monsters and monsters. However, when the other party just met him, he couldn't refuse. After walking more than 100 steps inside, he saw a group of people forming a circle. "You guys pay attention, I'm about to make a gong, don't blame me for not reminding you, all guard the spiritual platform to avoid being impacted." Standing outside the crowd, Lu Feng had question marks all over his face when he heard these words. He felt like a third-rate fantasy novel he had read in his previous life. He stepped forward to read it, stood on the spot and babbled. "What? Boss Lu, be careful not to get hurt by Qi, this is the top 10 Qigong masters in Southeast Asia." The other party said it seriously, and Lu Feng almost laughed. Now the Qigong fever has begun to show signs, and this trend continued until the end of the 1990s. Of course, some masters are still alive after 30 years, and they come out from time to time to embarrass people. But now there are people who really believe it. A few years later, a large number of people who practice Qigong will appear in large numbers. It is simply a reality version of a comprehension novel. Too many people who practice Qigong have broken their homes, even gone crazy, and finally went crazy. After gathering energy for a while, the master let out a low roar and punched all around. "What?" After a few screams, 3 or 4 young guys in the crowd flew out. "Have you seen it? This is Qi. If you practice to the peak, you will all fly out as soon as I hit the gong." The master looked at a few young men and said apologetically, "I'm sorry." "Bravo. Master, does this Qigong cure disease? Practice Qi function to cure cancer, or even bring the dead back to life. As long as the talent is excellent, there is no problem in becoming a fairy." Lu Feng didn't want to listen anymore. Those young people were not nurses. He screwed his head off and made him a chamber pot. Just as he was about to leave, he found that Mr. Huang was also watching. "Aren't you watching? Let's go, I'll show you someone." Mr. Huang looked at the master reluctantly. "President Huang, do you believe this too?" Lu Feng wondered. "We are in the north, Qigong is not good, Xiangjiang is very powerful, but there are many liars, and masters are rare." Mr. Huang slapped his mouth and said mysteriously, "I heard that there are special abilities." Lu Feng was speechless. He could only laugh. He understood completely why so many supernatural movies in the 1990s had a mass base. However, Qigong brought a benefit, brought a kung fu craze, and made kung fu movies go global. After walking a few hundred steps forward, a small living room was set up in one corner with sofas and potted plants. On the sofa sat a girl in her 20s, with long hair and wearing overalls. Childish. There are 4 or 5 men and women sitting next to them, of all ages, but looking at the girl with a flat face, Lu Feng walked forward, thinking to himself, what is this person's identity? Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 90. Hello Uncle Huang. The girl stood up when she saw Huang Yowei and smiled sweetly. Hey, okay, Ting Ting is really getting more and more beautiful. When I was your dad's secretary, you were still in junior high school. You were a big girl in a blink of an eye. In a few years, you will definitely be a stunning beauty. Huang Yowei. There was a smile on her face. The girl was indeed beautiful, but not as beautiful as he said. Obviously just flattering. This made Lu Feng, who was standing on the side, wondering who it was, but from what Mr. Huang said just now, he used to be a secretary for her father, so I'm afraid it's not a simple person. Uncle Huang, don't praise me, how can I be so beautiful? Ting Ting said a little embarrassed. Are you going to college now? Sophomore year. Your father is in good health. He's fine, he's just busy, his blood pressure is high, he's sick, and you're fat. Not only fat, but also old. Come, uncle introduced you to someone, your father should have mentioned it to you. Mr. Huang waved to Lu Feng, and Lu Feng hurried over. His name is Lu Feng, the owner of GMA Foodstuff, the one who had an accident in Baiwan City some time ago. I remember. Ting Ting glanced at Lu Feng, her eyes were a little different, she stretched out her hand and said, I didn't expect you to be so young, I thought you were an old man. Don't look young, she's experienced in doing things, but I feel that Ting Ting is very young from her heart to her body, Lu Feng said with a smile. You're just saying I'm stupid. Don't dare, what major are you studying? The two of them talked back and forth, completely leaving President Huang aside. Lu Feng knew the living conditions in the university like the back of his hand. Even Huang Yowei was a little surprised. How could this kid know so much? From time to time, Ting Ting nodded her head again and again by what he said, and was very agreeable. From what I can sense, Lu Feng and Ting Ting are not on the same level. Whether it is emotional intelligence or knowledge, one is talking incessantly, while the other can only nod to the side to indicate that at the same time, they are excited to say several pairs from time to time. This is not communication at all, but crushing. Zhang Xiaoyan took a lot of food and drink and looked around. She wanted to find Lu Feng, but she saw a bunch of people around him kept being polite, and for fear of disturbing him, she found a place to rest and sat down. The eyes of many people around him drifted to the side, and they looked at Zhang Xiaoyan a few times, but when they saw a lot of people around them, they all looked back. Who is that? Do you know him? I don't know, but she's beautiful, not an ordinary person's wife. Mr. Lu, you are so rich, don't you plan to find someone so beautiful? What nonsense! I'm loyal to my wife. Trust you, you've been secretly looking there a few times. Your wife is fat and ugly, so it doesn't cost much to find a little lover. You think I don't want to? She has 6 brothers, all of whom are simple-minded and well-developed. Several people looked at him with sympathy on their faces. What's the use of having money? Not far away is the bathroom. People come in and out from time to time. A man in his 20s walked out. His face was red and he looked slightly drunk. He took a few steps forward, suddenly stopped, and turned his head straight, staring at Zhang Xiaoyan. Zhang Xiaoyan raised her head and glanced at him, picked up Duo and prepared to leave, but the other party reached out his hand to stop him and said, Beauty, Why are you going? It has nothing to do with you. Zhang Xiaoyan turned aside as she spoke. The other party stopped him again. His face was drunk, his eyes were full of uncleanness, and he said with a hippie smile, "Where are you going?" "Let's talk to brother for a while, you look so good looking." "You'd better get out of the way." Zhang Xiaoyan frowned and shouted, but she also knew that the identities of people who could come here were not simple. "Is this child yours? Have you ever given birth to a child?" "Bastard, stay away from my mother," Duo shouted angrily. "I'm still a young woman. I like it the most. I tell you, my brother has money. If you stay with my brother for one night, you will make a lot of money." The other party reached out and grabbed it. Zhang Xiaoyan screamed, holding Duo to the side to dodge. Lu Feng picked up the wine glass and touched Mr. Huang and everyone. After chatting for a long time, he still didn't know what the father of this girl Ting was doing. He winked at Mr. Huang just now, and the other party pretended not to see. Seeing Lu Feng's unrelenting reluctance, Mr. Huang whispered, "From the province, this." He spoke with a thumbs up. "That's it?" Lu Feng covered his thumb. "Have you been to college? Do you know so much about college?" Ting's big eyes were full of curiosity. "Yes. I went to school, but I just dropped out of school." "Why? You're so smart and you still fail the class." Just as Lu Feng was about to say something, someone suddenly came over and said, "Mr. Lu, something happened over there. It looks like your family." "What?" Lu Feng yelled, stood up and rushed out. Huang Yue saw that Lu Fengren had run away. His face was very ugly, and he smiled when he looked at Ting and said, "Maybe this is the reason why he dropped out of school. I'm a little rude. I'll take a look and you can talk." Seeing that Lu Feng was gone, the others breathed a sigh of relief. He was chatting with Ting all night, and the others couldn't even get in, so they were gone now. "Is he married?" Although Ting was inquiring, it was not difficult for those who were attentive at the scene to find that there was a bit of disappointment in her words. Lu Feng ran away, blaming himself secretly in his heart, patronizing the relationship, forgetting the two of them, and seeing a circle of people not far away. He had already heard a lot of crying. "Step aside." Lu Feng pulled away from the crowd and saw a scene that made his canthus split. Zhang Xiaoyan was standing by the pillar, holding Duo in her arms. Her face was full of panic, and her sleeves had been torn. Opposite her stood a man in his 20s with a rogue look on his face. He hooked his fingers and said, "So many people are watching, what are you pretending to be?" "Go to Nima." Lu Feng rushed forward with a kick. With the exclamation of everyone, the other party was directly eaten by a dog. "Are you all right?" Lu Feng stepped forward and asked hurriedly. "It's okay, it won't cause trouble, right?" "Who the hum are you?" "I'm telling you, you're in trouble." The other party got up and said with his finger Lu Feng fiercely, "Do you know who my master is? Apologize to me now, you still have time." Zhang Xiaoyan was already panicked when she heard that the other party was coming. She pulled Lu Feng's arm and said, "Let's not cause trouble, this place is full of powerful people, so I won't make trouble for you. Everyone has a step down and don't cause trouble." "Has he touched you?" Lu Feng asked. He grabbed mother's hand, tore his clothes, and scratched his hand. Duo pointed at Zhang Xiaoyan's hand and said. "Which hand grabbed it?" Lu Feng's face turned cold, and he pointed at the man who was half lying on the ground and shouted, "I don't make so much money to be angry. I won't chop your hand off today. My name is yours. 1 million or 2 million, you make a price, I bought it." The other party was startled when he heard this, got up and ran away, shouting, "Wait for me, I'll tell my master to take care of you." Lu Feng knew that this kind of gathering today is all about knowing the bottom line, and he couldn't even run if he wanted to. He turned around and hugged Duo to coax him. He looked at Zhang Xiaoyan and comforted, "It's all right, I'm here to talk, and neither will you." Find me. I'm afraid I'll cause you trouble. Let's go. Look at that man's arrogant appearance, he's not an ordinary person. Don't talk nonsense. Why do you want a hand? In case you meet a ruthless person, Zhang Xiaoyan instead persuaded Lu Feng. As long as her family is good, she can endure any grievances. President Huang also chased after him. When he saw that Zhang Xiaoyan was being bullied, he didn't say much, but when such a thing happened, he Kugong, the organizer, didn't know where he went. The people around were talking a lot. Some were talking about what happened just now, and some were talking about Lu Feng. Ting Ting couldn't talk to those people, so she chased after them. Uncle Huang, what's wrong? Ting Ting asked. It's nothing, it's settled, you can go back, it's a mess here, Huang Yowei advised. Get out of the way, please let me go, the Kunlun Taoist is here. Everyone stepped aside. The man who performed Qigong just now came over, surrounded by a dozen people, with his head held high and his chest high. He glanced around with squinted eyes, and asked, "Who beat my apprentice?" "Master, just him, said he wanted to buy my hand with money." The man stood up and pointed his finger to Lu Feng, domineering.